The videos that you are about to watch are made by this user. Please make sure to check out their videos and subscribe to their channel, and also subscribe to mine. This video is a reaction video.
Wriggles desperately under the cat's paw as the long, curved feline claws dig into its furry skin. It squeaks with the primal terror of a creature that knows it's about to be devoured alive. No matter how hard it tries, it can't escape. It's in the clutches of its perfect predator. As the mouse fights for its life, the cat licks its fangs and descends towards its frightened prey. But before it can sink its fangs into the mouse's body, the cat opens its mouth and says, "Sorry about this, but I don't have a choice," in perfect English. It started with a man named Maurice, whose girlfriend was currently in the process of dumping him. The two of them sat in a diner over cups of coffee and mediocre eggs as she tried her best to let him down gently. But Maurice, his eyes glistening with tears, didn't want to get out that easy. He asked his former girlfriend, Laura, in case you were interested, why she didn't want to be with him anymore. For reasons even she didn't understand, Laura decided that on that fateful day, she would be honest with the man she was dumping. She told him that he is a nice guy. He's just kind of boring. Specifically, he just isn't cultured. He only listens to top 40 music, doesn't watch any movies that don't have superheroes in them. She can't even remember the most recent time she saw him reading a book, and never once in their 3-year relationship has she ever seen him take an interest in art. Laura wishes Maurice a nice life and leaves the diner. The next couple of weeks are hell for poor Maurice. He doesn't know what to do with himself in the single life. He goes to work, but that's about it. The rest of the time, he cries. He sleeps, he eats whole buckets of Ben & Jerry's, and he rewatches the same set of movies that Laura left him for watching in the first place. He's stuck in a rut, an endless loop.
Return to the global phenomenon that has critics rating.
Mango!
Left him for watching in the first place. He's stuck in a rut, an endless loop, and as he lays on his couch in the dead of night while Avengers Infinity War plays out on his screen for the 21st time, he notices how blank his walls are, bereft of even a single poster, photo, or painting. That's when it hits him. "You call me uncultured? I'll show you, Laura. I can be plenty cultured when I want to be." That same night, he Googled art dealerships in his area and found something interesting. Archibald's Art and Antiquities, only a 20-minute walk from his apartment. The place was apparently accredited, with sponsorships from something called MC&D, and also claiming to feature some acclaimed pieces of art from the fine folks of the AWCY Collective. All of this went over Maurice's not particularly cultured head, but he decided he'd definitely be visiting the place first thing in the morning. When he arrives, after shaving and washing his hair for the first time in over 2 weeks, he's feeling optimistic about his prospects. It is a classy-looking store, the exact kind of thing he was expecting when he read about the place online. There's even a hand-painted open sign in the front window. The store owner, Archibald presumably, greets Maurice in the doorway. He's an old man, with thick black glasses and a white walking cane. Is he blind? Maurice is confused by that. A blind art dealer feels kind of like a comedian who can't speak. But the dealer is polite and tells Maurice to look around to his heart's content. Once again, Maurice feels a little out of his depth. On some level, he knows Laura was right. He doesn't know the first thing about art. None of it was connecting. His eyes passed over paintings, sculptures, and artistic photos with no effect. He was worried for a while that perhaps he was truly hopeless, until his eyes met with a truly glorious sight. A painting that spoke to him on the very deepest levels of his soul. It doesn't even have a title, but the second he sees it, he just knows it has to be his. It's a painting of a fat cat lying against a pile of pillows without a care in the world. It's everything that Maurice wants to be in his life. Relaxed, unbothered, carefree, happy. Before he even knows it, he's reaching for his wallet. A short transaction with Archibald later, and Maurice returned home with his new prized possession. a painting that represented a turning point in his life in more ways than he could have ever understood. With a hammer and some nails, he mounted the precious painting up on his wall so that he could look at it for inspiration every single day. It's the start of a new chapter. Maybe everything would be better now. Little did Maurice know, the transformation had already started. 1 hour after initial viewing, it's like a switch in Maurice's brain had been flipped. He was suddenly pulled out of his post-breakup depressive slump, rejuvenated, reborn. With the painting up on his wall, he started to look at the apartment differently. This place was a dump. Where was the life? Where was the effort? He needed to make the rest of the apartment worth the grandeur of the painting. He started cleaning up and looking at articles on feng shui. He carefully rearranged the place until it looked perfect, like the kind of place a woman would be proud to go back to. Speaking of which, he signed up for some old dating profiles, taking a nicer, happier selfie to represent himself. Somehow, with the painting in his possession, anything seemed possible. The possibilities were endless. For the first time in a long time, thoughts of Laura didn't even cross his mind. He's thinking about the future rather than the past, about all the wonderful things that he can do and experience now that he's single. He's on his way to being cultured. One day after initial viewing, Maurice is picking up some new tastes. While spending hours browsing online retailers like Etsy and Redbubble, he finds himself drawn to furniture and ornaments around one particular subject: cats. It doesn't even really strike him as that strange at first. After all, so many of the articles he read about interior decoration advise having a cohesive theme for your living space, like a nice rug. It just really ties the room together. He buys a rug shaped like a cat. He buys some cat cushions and throw pillows, a picture frame with a cat on it, cat charms, cat statues, cat statuettes, cat everything. The more he puts into his home, the more it feels like it's meant to be. And really, why stop at just decoration? He starts buying t-shirts with cats on them and sweaters with kawaii cat faces lovingly embroidered into the fabric. He even buys a woolly hat with cat ears on top for when the winter months roll around. As the quantity of cat-based merchandise in his home begins to outweigh everything else, another thought wanders into his mind. There's not a no pets clause in his lease agreement. Why doesn't he just cut to the chase and get himself an actual pet cat? With a sense of joy and excitement he hasn't felt in a long time, he starts to Google local rescues where he might be able to adopt a new furry little friend. 1 week after initial viewing, Maurice has already made some of his dreams into a reality. He's got a cat, Felix, who wanders around his home. He's thinking about getting another as he pours some kibble into Felix's bowl, or maybe 2 others. A whole family of cuddly kitties to keep him company. Why would he even need a girlfriend? He starts to think about how everyone would be happier if they had a cat or 2 in their life. This is the thought that inspires his new information campaign. He starts with the people at work, telling anyone who will listen to him about how getting a cat has changed his life. When he does go on occasional dates, his favorite topic of conversation is, of course, his feline friends. He can't wait to ask his potential partners whether they're cat people or dog people, and if they're undecided, he eagerly takes the opportunity to convert them. It didn't take long for his almost holy mission to go further. He wants to make people's lives better, and his life started getting better when he first bought that wonderful painting. He tries his best to convince people to come back to his apartment just so they can take a look at the painting. Most people politely decline the offer. 3 weeks after initial viewing, the changes to Maurice's behavior became a little more drastic. He's become so obsessed with the feline lifestyle that his own behavior begins to take on a kind of cat-like dimension. He doesn't feel the need to take a shower or bathe anymore. Why would he need to, when he can just lick himself clean? The same goes for eating. Why sit at a table with a plate and a knife and fork? Instead, he eats directly off the ground with his hands and mouth. He drinks milk out of a saucer, hungrily lapping it up. Some days, he doesn't even feel like walking bipedally. He'll walk on his hands and feet with his rear sticking up in the air. Somehow, it feels more comfortable than walking normally. But the transformations are only just beginning. 2 months after initial viewing, Maurice has started to notice that his stubble is growing out faster than usual. Sometimes he needs to shave twice a day, if he wants to stay neat. But what began with the stubble would soon grow quickly out of proportion. His eyebrows became wild and bushy. His hair started to become almost a mane, growing out in thick mutton chops and creeping down his neck towards his back. His arm and leg hair, the hair on his chest and his back. At a certain point, shaving felt futile. He just let it grow out. Soon enough, it didn't look like hair. It looked more like, well, fur. Just like the soft, silky fur on his beloved Felix. Maurice doesn't mind it. In fact, he's starting to love it. With a cat in a room full of cat memorabilia, all overseen by his beautiful, perfect cat painting, Maurice fits right in here. 4 months after initial viewing, Maurice woke up one morning to find something strange about himself. Even stranger than everything else, he's gotten smaller. No, it's not as though he's lost weight. He's physically gotten smaller. Had Maurice been the kind of guy who likes to habitually visit the doctor, they would have told him that his skeletal structure had somehow contracted, along with his skin and musculature. Nothing is out of proportion. It's almost like he's gradually been hit with a kind of science fiction shrink ray. Maurice doesn't pay much mind to it, of course. He only noticed that he'd gotten shorter when he went to lovingly gaze at his painting, and noticed that he was looking at it from a slightly different angle than usual. But that's fine. Much like Maurice himself now, it's no biggie. If anything, it's a real treat to see his prized possession from a slightly different perspective. While Maurice didn't know it, at this point, he was only 2 months away from fully completing the process he'd started undergoing just 4 months earlier. 5 months after initial viewing. The most obvious of the changes started occurring at this point. For a few months now, people at the office had been politely ignoring the peculiar changes to Maurice's size and skin, and his tendency to treat lunch break very differently to his colleagues. But the alterations that began at month 5 were impossible to ignore. First, the ears. They disappeared against the sides of Maurice's head. Instead, 2 other ears, pointy and furry, popped out of the top of his skull, half hidden amongst his hair. Then came the eyes. His sclera disappeared, and his pupils lengthened and narrowed into black, feline slits. And, of course, most inconvenient to Maurice's daily life, the disappearances of his thumbs and fingers. They shortened down to furry nubs until his hands weren't hands at all. They were more like paws. The transformation is almost complete. 6 months after initial viewing. By now, the transformation is complete. Getting into art has changed Maurice's life forever. He has now quite literally become a cat. He paws through his apartment with his best friend, Felix, eating kibble to his heart's content. The one difference being that Maurice, despite his new form, retains all of his personality and mind. He can even talk, if you're the kind of person who enjoys talking to cats. Because Maurice had the foresight to leave a window open before the transformation fully took hold, he and Felix could come and go as they pleased. When the kibble ran out, they started running through the alleys together, foraging for scraps and hunting down mice and birds for sustenance. Maurice was reported missing a month ago, and there have been no leads in the case. Posters went up, searches were performed, but nothing was ever found. A few months after that, he'd been declared legally dead, to the human world at least. Laura never thought about him again after the news reports stopped, and eventually his apartment was cleared out and resold. He and Felix would spend the rest of their days eking out a strange little existence together on the streets, just taking it day by day. And despite it all, Maurice is happy. In case you somehow hadn't gathered from all that, SCP-3270 is an anomalous painting of a cat lounging against a pillow. Isn't he adorable? You may be inclined to agree, but if you encounter the painting in person, that agreement may come at a heavy cost. While seeing secondary reproductions of the painting has no anomalous effect, seeing the real thing in person will cause horrific changes to the human body. Little by little, anyone who observes the painting directly has a considerable chance of turning into a cat, designated SCP-3270-1. These are no ordinary cats, of course. They're cats with human intelligence, human lifespans, and even the ability to speak. Despite cat physiology not being compatible with human speech, The painting itself is kept in Site-64, and any humans turned into cats by its anomalous powers are kept in Site-88, where they're very well taken care of. The idea of being turned into a cat and forever forsaking your humanity might horrify you, but you shouldn't worry about it too much. After all, cats have it pretty well. You just had a night of your life.
I knew that was gonna happen. It was a switch to a new video. But I can play asshole.
You're dying a death no one should ever experience. Being eaten alive by a deranged man in a filthy, foul-smelling animal costume. And it all started with a meme. But how? Over the years, advertising has grown increasingly sophisticated as customers become more cynical and more adept at spotting the grin of an eager salesman. The classic magazine ads of the 50s and the infomercials of the 90s are no longer enough to move a product. The new era of advertising has brought us guerrilla marketing campaigns, paid lifestyle influencers who play the part of your best friend giving you a personal recommendation, and algorithmically generated social media ads that are targeted specifically to you. But what if it could go a step further? What if an ad could change the very core of who you are, could hollow you out, and pour nothing but a desire to consume the intended product back in? What if an ad could steal your very humanity? Well, an amateur group of entrepreneurs with a talent for embedding mimetic agents in websites managed to do just that, with the creation of SCP-3312. Exposure to SCP-3312 induces major behavioral changes and a shift in interests that can be off-putting, to say the least, and that is only the beginning. SCP-3312 is a mimetic agent hidden within a fan website, which, after a human has been exposed to it, induces a compulsion to consume products, media, and other content related to a variety of fan bases. Previous interests have included comic books by specific publishers and animated series produced by specific companies. The website originated from Accelerate the Future, or ATF, an amateur entrepreneur group. Though the mimetic agent has pushed the infected towards a variety of interests in the past, its current focus is the anthropomorphic animal enthusiast community, or the furry fandom. This current iteration of SCP-3312 progresses through 6 stages, evolving from mimetic to mind-affecting agent past stage 4. The mimetic can only affect individuals with no previous connections to the furry community. So if an individual was already a participant in this fandom prior to exposure, they will be safe from infection and its later stages. This is quite fortunate, as the later stages can be unpleasant. Stage 1 of the mimetic infection begins with an increased interest in mainstream anthropomorphic animal characters. This includes, but is not limited to, brand mascots, animated cartoon and video game characters, and cereal box art. At this stage, it is relatively mild, and can be reversed in 82% of cases. This is the first stage that the Foundation was able to identify, and simultaneously, Foundation web crawlers stumbled upon the chat log history of ATF. This chat log provided additional insight into the nature of SCP-3312 and the motive behind its creation. The primary active users within the chat were M. Perry, Dylan99, Snack Attack, Thoticus Prime, and Ollie Fox, believed to be the origin point of the mimetic agent itself. In the initial recovered conversation, the users were discussing Ollie Fox's recent shirt sales, featuring art of his persona. These sales were driven by the mimetic agent, as evidenced by M. Perry's comment, "Weird how we have to literally mind control people to buy shirts with your I Bleed Fox Sona on it." The group mocked Ollie for his interest in the furry community, before acknowledging that SCP-3312 had already convinced one infected individual to purchase 6 fursuits, driving himself nearly to the point of bankruptcy. They also alluded to a previous mimetic agent-driven casualty, in which people ran around in Speedos, karate chopping each other in the neck, resulting in the deaths of 12 people. Additional details of this specific incident are currently unknown. Stage 2 of the infection sees the affected individuals begin to actively participate in the furry community. Some will create personas for themselves, create digital or hand-drawn art featuring anthropomorphic animals, and engage in forum-based roleplay involving these original characters. These Stage 2 individuals are identical in behavior to many non-anomalous members of the furry fandom, and are regarded as harmless to themselves and others. It is at this stage that their behavior most closely resembles that of the mimetic agent's creator, Fox. Affected individuals at Stage 3 will begin to seek out internet users that are openly critical or mocking of the furry community, and introduce them to SCP-3312. It should be noted that images from the website, including the logo...
Alright, I would like to say that it's okay to, like, be different. It's okay to not like the same things other people like. Alright, to those that hate, it's really just stupid to hate on us because it doesn't make any sense. Because you like things like those freaking weird sound effects you use from TikTok and those freaking Juggernaut characters and all those other characters like the freaking character with the weird mask, the green mask that fights. Alright, in a way you guys are basically furries too, because you guys show yourselves as Giga Chads and all these fictional characters, just like what we do, but in kind of different way. Alright, in a way, furries are basically a type of cosplayer, and yeah, all I gotta say is, I go after the haters that go after me. I don't look for fights, unless they look for me. When they come after me, I deal with them, and that's that. Alright. Now continue on the video.
Share the same anomalous properties as the website itself. Stage 3 individuals spend most of their time online engaging in this behavior and using ATF's website. Their behavior at this point tips over the edge from enthusiastic to obsessive, and Stage 3 individuals have been observed partaking in a variety of potentially destructive behaviors in addition to ordinary fan behavior. Some of the milder behaviors include opening several different role-playing accounts across various social media platforms, and investing thousands of dollars in high-quality animal costumes. Other behaviors that have been observed include introducing strangers to SCP-3312 via forum posts.
Alright. I'm cool. I'm just cool and collective when it comes to introducing people into new stuff they don't know. But why would you let someone control you and turn you into something you don't want to be? The reason I am who I am is because I wanted to be who I am. Alright. I say to all the witchcraft and all that weird stuff that makes you do crazy, creepy things like cracking your neck and making it going 360 degrees and all that weird horror movie crap. Alright, you be you, nobody else. If you be who you want to be, who you are, then that's fine. Don't let nobody fuck you over or control you. You are who you want to be, and that's that. Alright, now that my speech is done, continue.
And attempting to contact Fox, who they display anomalous knowledge of, regardless of whether or not they have ever directly interacted with him. Several Stage 3 individuals were found attempting to establish a political party centered around the interests of the furry community, advocating for policy changes which included the right to wear animal costumes to work, the proposal of a national furry holiday, and a debate over the legalization or banning of the onomatopoeia "awoo." This stage is the first that has been linked to...
Alright. OWU, or what you would know as UWU instead of OWO. Alright. I don't really understand it, but if you want to say that, go ahead. I really don't care, honestly. Like, I'm a furry, but I'm also, like, human. It's like, I'm both, in a way. I adapted to be both, in a way. That's why I don't have full suit, but it's like UWU. I don't know if it's like a face you make with text, like in text, or if it's some meaning, which I'm probably gonna look it up now that I actually am talking about it. But why? Just why? Alright? I don't know. Just, you know what, just continue. Just please.
Legal trouble, and police records indicate arrests at furry community parties of affected individuals who were charged with disturbance of the peace, possession and trafficking of drugs, vandalism, and kidnapping. At one particular fan convention, which was already notable for being the site of a massacre by SCP-953, the polymorphic humanoid, several Stage 3 individuals were found participating in cult activity. After engaging in recruitment tactics, they gathered in one of the hotel rooms where they performed a ritual sacrifice of another congoer in order to, quote, become closer with the object of their worship. They refused to elaborate under interrogation, but the prevailing theory is that this sacrifice was intended to attract the attention of Ollie Fox. Stage 4 individuals experience a notable shift in verbal communication, as well as a loss of ability to care for themselves and make rational decisions. One victim, found dead in California, lost his life following a 2-day diet consisting solely of chocolate, in spite of his previous type 1 diabetes diagnosis. At this stage, the infected become completely devoted to the furry community, unable to focus on anything else. This affects their friendships, familial relationships, living situations, employment, and financial as well as physical and social well-being. Families of affected individuals.
Just stop it right flipping there. Alright. I want to just say how crazy that sounds. Alright. I get it. It affects your friendships. That makes sense because you turn to a furry. Some of your friends are not going to want to be with you after that. Your relationships, definitely not. Your family conditions, definitely going to probably change. I mean, for me, being a furry, once I told my mom I'm a furry, I was surprised she didn't just say I'm not her son, but she just was cool with it. I was thinking something bad was going to happen, but nothing happened. But letting it affect your living conditions, why? Alright. It makes sense for one thing, like, I have, like, a few, like, things on the walls, one here, one here, one here, one here, just wolves, right? My room's a mess. That's because my room was always a mess, because I don't clean up after myself, even before I was a furry. Just try to do normal stuff. Back off, Facebook. Try to do normal stuff, but also do furry stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta have a balance. Because if you keep doing more furry stuff, even though it's fun and nice to do, you will turn into, well, something you don't want really understand, but you'll turn into like a freak to everyone. If you be humanish, but also furryish at the same time, people will, like, respect you more and, you know. But I'm not here to control nobody's life. Nobody. So be yourself, bro.
Individuals have reported completely losing touch with their loved ones after they have advanced to Stage 4. And interviews with individuals at that stage have revealed that they consider the furry community to be their only true family, and will only maintain relationships with others in the community. One way in which this degradation of ability to function manifests is in the affected individual's living space. Because the infected person refuses to devote their time to anything outside of SCP-3312, including themselves and their home, they will allow the growth of mold to progress, as well as the accumulation of garbage and other items in a manner consistent with victims of severe hoarding disorders. It is also common for these individuals to stop bathing, sleeping, or eating for days at a time. Even as distressing as it may be for families of these individuals to watch their loved ones in this state, the worst is still yet to come. At Stage 5, the affected individuals will begin to lose all grip on reality and their own humanity. Those at this stage will begin to believe that they are an anthropomorphic animal, and will preserve and act on this belief by any means necessary. Some of the observed behaviors of individuals at Stage 5 have crossed into the realm of the truly disturbing. One individual attempted to mate with several predatory animals at an Indiana zoo, resulting in injuries to themselves.
Motherfucker. Whoa, 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 whoa. Stop it right there. Right there. Like, right now. Right there. Alright. I'm gonna tell you what that's called. That's called a zoophile. Now, if you're really daring to look it up, you can look it up. They're basically a different type of furry. Like, they're not really furry, but they look like us. They act kind of like us, but in the shadows, they do some real unspeakable things, as you heard them say themselves. Alright, they are not really furries, but in a way, they look like us, and they do it with animals. Let's say they do stuff with animals that is really off-putting to even the furries as ourselves. And those people, that's known as zoophilia and all that confusing crap. I don't know much about that part because I try to stay away from that. But try to not do that, people. That's not okay. That's not okay. Like, fucking animals, not okay. Just know.
As well as zookeepers and security guards who intervened. A factory worker known only as Annabelle Y took several of her co-workers hostage at knife point, proclaiming herself to be a leopard, and demanding several £100s of raw meat as well as a sizable severance paycheck in exchange for the safe release of the hostages. Several Stage 5 individuals lost their lives due to injuries caused by falling from a great height. Notably, all of these individuals identified with winged animals, and are thought to have been attempting to fly from these heights. Other deaths attributed to Stage 5 include heart-related illnesses caused by wearing fursuits in high heat for hours at a time. Others entered public parks and...
I need to say something. If you think you're a bird and you're gonna try to fly, I say good luck, because that sadly ain't gonna happen. I wish, that would be cool. I want to be able to fly. I want to be like Superman, but no. Also, be careful. Those who are in Texas and other hot places of the world, be careful. You can burn yourself in your fursuit, alright? And if you have a full body fursuit, I highly suggest, even though I don't use full-on fursuits, alright, to have an ice pack vest on under the fursuit. Leave it in the freezer long as you can, and when you go out, to have that on under your fursuit so you can stay cool and do the furry activities you love and know to do. Carry on.
In forests in these costumes, where hunters mistook them for game and acted accordingly, with tragic results. Ollie Fox himself was not immune to the dangers of Stage 5, as he was physically assaulted in public by several individuals at this stage. Following the factory incident involving Annabelle Y, there was conflict in the official
Hello, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a very real, not imaginary
factory incident involving Annabelle Y. There was conflict in the official ATF chat. M. Perry confronted Ollie Fox over the dangers of the mimetic agent and his personal distaste for the furry community. The most notable comment from M. Perry was, "Ollie, we like your art. We just don't like furries at all. Like seriously, why do you think we'd let you make this site for yourself? To make other friends. We like you because you can make supernatural advertisements. All your websites you've ever made drag people into them, and then those people are used up in 2 months, staggering around as empty shells of themselves." And then he included a chilling detail that the Foundation has yet to corroborate. "Someone ate a baby a week ago, Ollie," he continued. "Do you understand what you've done? You've literally created a race of idiot man-eaters. These aren't even people anymore, Ollie, they're inhuman. You're out of the group." Ollie sent only one thing in response. A single JPEG image, the logo of SCP-3312's website. In that one single message, he effectively doomed his former friend M. Perry to the same fate of all the other infected. Which brings us to Stage 6. So far, the latest stage of infection that has been identified. Individuals who reach Stage 6 will experience a total loss of higher cognitive function and regress to primal instinctual behaviors associated with the animal associated with their personal persona. Prey animals such as rabbits will result in hypervigilance and a herbivorous diet, for example. The consequences for those with predatory personas can be much more dire. Notably, individuals at Stage 6 still retain the ability to speak, but they do so at a heightened pitch and with childlike pronunciation, resulting in a deeply unsettling effect. Testing has revealed that this transformed speech serves the purpose of animal vocalizations, rather than processed human speech. It sounds like words, but there is no more coherent thought behind them than the clucking of a chicken or the roar of a lion. Predatory Stage 6 cases are highly aggressive and will attack and kill both affected and unaffected individuals alike. They no longer recognize anyone they once knew, whether family, friend, or fellow forum poster. Even their own pets and children are just more potential prey. There was one more conversation between the members of ATF before the majority of the members succumbed to Stage 4 of the infection. 234 days after the creation of SCP-3312, the ATF members logged into the chat channel. Ollie Fox was still there, notably, and M. Perry's behavior had shifted dramatically. There was one more message in the chat channel, and M. Perry is unlikely to ever type another, reading, "My fursuit is in transit." Little cute smiley thing. Sometime after this chat log, MTF S-88 Animal Control raided the residence of M. Perry, real name Michael Perry, in Oklahoma. What they found there was nothing short of horrifying. November, team lead for the raid reported to command along with agents Bravo and Charlie. At 7 p.m., the task force reached Perry's home on the corner of Lakeview and Charlemagne. The house had notably fallen into disrepair, even from the outside. On the front porch, a stack of packages sat unopened, all addressed to Michael Perry. There was no turning back. They had to go inside, whatever awaited them. November kicked in the door and it gave way easily, the wood rotten and weakened. All at once, the man began to gag at the smell inside of the home. Grime and dirt covered the walls and windows, dimming the light from the outside and keeping the house in a state of murky darkness. The task force members turned on their flashlights, trying not to breathe too deeply and inhale the spores of mold they could smell in the walls. The living room was empty, so they pressed on into the house. They reached the kitchen, where the counters and tables were littered with pieces of rotten, discarded food, packets of cake mix, and puddles of milk mixing into a brown sludge on the floor. Prior to the raid, the task force had been told Perry was at Stage 4 of infection, but as they took in the side of the house, they began to suspect that was a lie. Agent November called out for Perry, asking if he was home. A voice replied, "Hello?" November proceeded with the standard script, asking Perry to lay on the ground with his hands up and not make any sudden movements. Perry called out, "Hi, friends, come play with me." Something was wrong here. Perry wasn't responding as if he understood. The task force members broke down the door to Perry's bedroom and found a gruesome nest of mold, broken computer parts, a shredded mattress, and a splintered bed frame. There were piles of putrid food, soiled clothes, and furry paraphernalia that had been ripped to pieces, as if by a wild animal. Perry himself was curled against the corner of the nearby wall, clad in a tattered sweater and threadbare costume animal tail. His hair was greasy, his eyes wild and bloodshot. He hissed at the sudden light from the task force flashlights, crawling on to his hands and feet. He grinned at the agents, pupils dilated and feral. As the agents trained their weapons on Perry, his grin widened and he growled, "Please help me, Mr. Policeman. Please help!" He began to shake. With one desperate cry of, "Please help me," he lunged at November, blocking onto him. The camera lens cracked and the video feed was lost. But the sounds of Perry giggling, the agents shouting in pain and terror, and wet squelches and crunches could be heard. None of the agents survived the confrontation, and Perry was later apprehended and brought in alive, if you can call it that. The Foundation has currently placed special containment procedures on SCP-3312, intended to limit the spread of this destructive memetic agent and prevent others from meeting Michael Perry's fate. Foundation web crawlers are required to monitor all social media networks for any signs of SCP-3312, including video platforms, chat forums, and cloud databases. Any links, URLs, and advertisements relating to SCP-3312's website must be neutralized via RR-113 protocols. All leads to ATF must be logged for future reference. Infected individuals must be administered Class B amnestics, provided that they are in stages 1 through 3. Individuals in stage 4 and 5 are to be administered Class A amnestics. All individuals in stage 6 of infection must be brought to Site 990. Predatory instances are to be contained there using standard humanoid containment procedures, while others must be kept for observation. If any stages beyond 6 reveal themselves, those infected must be captured and brought into custody at Site 990 for testing. Have you ever had a nightmare that you're running down a long, dark...
I had a nightmare that was crazy, but I'm not going to talk about my nightmares. Well, that was just a nightmare to watch, but yeah. All I got to say is, wow. Let's get to the main cam, shall we? Alright, we're on the main cam, ladies and gents. I would like to say, I guess, thank you for showing me how crazy your guys' mind are, whoever is behind SCP Foundation. Alright, but, can we not joke about furries like that? We're just, like, normal people, but in our own way. Excuse me, too much soda. But, also, I would like to say a disclaimer. This is not my video. Both of them are not my video. And any of the content from that video is not mine. So don't call copyright strikes or copyright claims or any of that. Because I'm only interacting and like reacting to these videos. This is a full-on reaction video. Also, I would like to say thank you to my subscribers, viewers, and fans. We're almost up to 2,000 subscribers. Alright, we're so close. Let's keep doing this.